Hello everyone. Today we would like to debate on the resolution accepting uncertainty makes you a better thinker. So let us start with the pros introduction.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Today I will introduce the topic accepting uncertainty makes you better from the pro side. To begin, let's understand the key concept of uncertainty. Uncertainty simply means not knowing what will happen next. In life, many things are unpredictable. Our plans can change, situations can shift, and outcomes are never fully guaranteed. No matter how much we prepare, we cannot control everything around us. So, uncertainty is not something rare or unusual. It is a normal part of everyday life. Because uncertainty is everywhere, learning how to accept it becomes an important skill. Accepting uncertainty does not mean we stop caring or stop planning. It means we understand that things may not always get exactly as expected and we are open to adjusting when necessary. So how does accepting uncertainty make people better? First, it helps us become a more flexible and adaptable. When unexpected changes happen, people who accept uncertainty can stay calm and think of alternative solutions. And also it leads a better decision makings. Like if we wait for perfect information, we may never make a choice. But when we accept that something will always be unknown, we elevate risk more clearly and make decisions with confidence. And it also can improve our emotional well-being. That trying control everything creates stress and pressure. Lastly, it also growth help us encourage growth and learning. When we step outside of our comfort zone, even when we are unsure, we gain new experience, new skills, and new perspective. Thank you.
Then please talk about first points.
So the pros of accepting uncertainty makes you a better thinker because of, next slide. Because of accepting uncertainty is a key trait of the superior thinking style known as a actively open-minded thinking. When a person is unable to accept uncertainty, their thinking becomes rigid, fearful, and often illogical. So why do we need to accepting uncertainty leads to a better thinking? Uncertainty creates a space for accuracy. Research for shows that the effective thinkers practice the actively open-minded thinking by separating their judgment from their existing belief, uncomfortable with the uncertainty instead of resisting it. Recognizing that changing their mind when new evidence is appear is a sign of strength, not a weakness. This will let their mind to have a new evidence appears to more accurate judgment and consistently better thinking. Why demanding certainty is harmful? In contrast, some thinkers will think that the uncertainty is not good for them. These individuals are often described as a controller because they hate the uncertainty and unclear situation. However, their desire for uncertainty does not make them a better thinker. Their behavior is driven by fear and insecurity, not clarity. Due to their fear of unknown, they frequently jump to the illogical conclusion instead of the following evidence. So accepting uncertainty allows a thinker to remain open, evidence-based, and accurate. Demanding absolute certainty causes thinking to become rigid, fearful, and illogical. Therefore, embracing the uncertainty is what ultimately makes a person to be a more rational thinker.
After that, please talk about the second point.
Another reason why accepting uncertainty makes you a better thinker is because it helps reduces bias and overconfidence. People often become too confident in their own views and assume that they are always right, even when they only have limited information. So instead of relying on facts, they trust their own personal beliefs, assumptions, or whatever that just simply feels right. This leads to a narrow thinking and prevents them from seeing the full picture. However, when a person is willing to accept uncertainty, they become more comfortable in admitting that they might be wrong and begin to recognize the limits of their knowledge. This shift in mindset naturally reduces bias and encourages them to examine the situation from different angles. This also stops them from jumping to conclusion and pushes them to look for evidence before forming a judgment. As a result, their perspective becomes broader, their reasoning and conclusions become far more accurate. Accepting uncertainty does not make a person become weaker or indecisive. Instead, it helps them become more thoughtful, open-minded, and humble. Hence, it strengthens one's critical thinking skills and leads to a clearer and more reliable decision making. Thank you.
Okay, then please talk about the third point.
Another one is improves problem solving. So actively open-minded thinking plays a crucial role in strengthening effective problem solving. It encourages individuals to move beyond their initial reactions and avoid relying solely on the most immediate or familiar answer. Instead, this approach promotes the careful consideration of multiple possible situations, allowing us to elevate issues from different angles. By questioning our underlying assumptions, we become more aware of factors that may otherwise be overlooked. This reduces the likelihood of reaching conclusions that are rushed or inaccurate. Through a more deliberate and reflective thought process, actively open-minded thinking helps us make decisions that are clearer, more evidence-based, and more logical sound. This is especially important when facing complex or uncertain situations where the best solution is not always straightforward. Overall, adopting an actively open-minded leads to higher quality decision, stronger reasoning, and more effective outcome in both personal and academic problem-solving contexts.
After that, there will be our pros conclusion.
So let's bring this all together. Why does accepting uncertainty makes you a better thinker? Based on the theme has shared just now, it comes down to three major points. First, it allows for actively open-minded thinking. We explained that the need for certainty often creates controllers, people driven by fear and insecurity who jump to illogical conclusions. But when you accept uncertainty, you adopt actively open-minded thinking. You stop protecting your ego and start prioritizing the truth. Second, it helps to reduce bias and overconfidence. Demanding certainty leads to overconfidence. You trust your feelings more than the facts. Accepting uncertainty acts as a reality check. It forces you to be humble, admit the limits of your knowledge, and actually look for evidence before making a judgment. Thirdly, it significantly enhances problem solving. Instead of rushing to the first answer, accepting uncertainty encourages us to slow down. It allows us to look at problems from multiple angles and weigh different perspectives. This prevents rush errors and helps us find solutions that actually work. Accepting uncertainty doesn't mean you are confused. A mind that accepts uncertainty is open, true, and accurate. That is why accepting uncertainty doesn't just make you unsure, it makes you a significantly better thinker.
Okay, thank you. Then now is the cons of accepting uncertainty. Please start the cons introduction.
While accepting uncertainty is often promoted as a way to improve thinking, our team believes that it also carries a serious drawback. Uncertainty does not always lead to better thinker. In many cases, it creates stress, confusions, and hesitations. When people are unsure of the outcome, they tend to overthink, lose confidence, and make slower decisions. These negative effects show that uncertainty can actually limit our ability to think clearly and act effectively. Therefore, we argue that accepting uncertainty does not always make someone a better thinker. It makes thinking more complicated, less efficient, and more emotionally draining. For the reason, our team finally believes that the cons of accepting uncertainty outweigh its supposed benefits.
Then please talk about the first points of the cons.
Alright, now let's talk about the con side of this topic. In reality, when people face uncertainty, they often become anxious, stressed, or even overwhelmed. And once emotions take over, it becomes much harder to think clearly or logically. Instead of analyzing a situation calmly, people may start overthinking, imagining worst case scenarios, or making quick decisions just to escape the uncomfortable feeling of not knowing. Their judgment becomes reactive rather than rational, and their ability to think critically decreases. So, while the idea sounds positive in theory, it doesn't reflect how most people actually respond to uncertainty. For many, uncertainty leads to confusions, emotional pressures, and poorer decision making. That's why we believe accepting uncertainty does not always make you a better thinker, and we stand firmly on the con side.
After that, there is the second point.
Okay, now I would like to highlight another important effect of accepting uncertainty. It actually slows down our decision-making process. We often hear that being comfortable with uncertainty makes us open-minded and flexible. That is true, but there is also another side to it. When we accept that our future is unpredictable or unclear, we often our mind naturally tries to make sense of it, and this can lead to something called analysis paralysis. Instead of making quick choices, we start overthinking. We compare our options again and again. We hesitate, and sometimes we even delay our decision completely because we are afraid of making mistakes. Another important point is cognitive overload. Uncertainty triggers our mind into imagining different outcomes, and we start asking ourselves endless what if questions. What if it goes wrong? What if I choose the wrong option? And all these possible outcomes create mental pressure. And when our brain is overloaded with too much information, it becomes harder to think clearly. As a result, the decision-making process becomes slower and more complicated. So accepting uncertainty has benefits, but it also means that we need to handle a large amount of information, possibilities, and doubts. So it naturally slows us down.
Now is the conclusion of the cons.
Okay, so in conclusion, we want to bring things back to something very practical. In our daily lives, thinking is supposed to guide us. It's supposed to help us make choices and handle problems with confidence. But when we start accepting too much uncertainty, our thinking loses that direction. If we are not sure about everything in our lives, then our decision becomes weaker. We end up holding back and not trusting our own judgment. And when that becomes a habit, it affects how we study, how we work, and how we deal with challenges in our lives. So we're not saying that uncertainty doesn't exist. Of course it does, but sometimes we need clarity. We need to be firm about our choice and move forward. So at the end of the day, good thinking is about responsibility and direction. If we rely too much on our uncertainty, we lose both. That's why for us, accepting uncertainty doesn't make you a better thinker. It only makes you think less solid. Thank you.
So, based on the conclusion of the pros and cons, accepting uncertainty is most powerful when it is balanced. It can guide us toward clearer, more thoughtful reasoning so long as we do not let it prevent us from making informed and confident choices. That's all. Thank you.